Hey friends, welcome back to Pastor's Wives Tell All. You are listening to part 2 of our conversation with our friend Alex and her struggle with postpartum depression and psychosis. This episode does include mentions of suicidal ideations. Listen with caution, and if you haven't listened to part 1 yet, stop right here and go back to that episode first. For those who are ready for part 2, let's get to this important conversation.
I'm Jessica.
I'm Jenna.
And I'm Stephanie.
And you are listening to Pastor's Wives Tell All,
a podcast by pastors' wives for church leaders and anyone desiring to take a peek inside our glass house.
We are breaking down walls and crushing pastors' wives stereotypes within the church.
We want pastors' wives and other ministry leaders to know that they are not alone in this. Plus, this is basically therapy for the three of us with a whole lot of dance parties. Whoop,
I kind of popped out of this episode and was standing in front of my husband's dresser, just with the gun right there. And I was actually reached out going to grab it, and my hand was almost on it. And I ripped my hand out, but I froze. And I was standing there for like 5 minutes with that voice that was like, just do it, because this is about to be the worst experience you're ever going to experience. Just do it. Just end it. It will be so much better for Caleb because he doesn't have to deal with you. You want to die because this is awful, and it's going to be awful, and it's just going to get worse. And so I slammed the dresser drawer shut and threw myself on the bed again, violently shaking and sobbing. And I started calling Caleb's name, and he ended up waking up. And he was like, "Oh my, are you okay? Like, I'm just over here, just a hot mess." And I told him what happened. I was like, "You have to hide the gun. I do not need to know where it's at because I want to end my life right now." I was like, "I don't want to be here. I don't know why, but I'm not safe." And so I went in bed, literally threw myself under the covers. He went and hid the gun and was just like, "God, like, what is happening?" And from that moment until now, I didn't hear from the Lord. It was just very awful.
I'm curious about how long this lasted.
So
that
the episode
silence, that the psychosis episodes coming and going, or just the depression, and then how did you get help?
Okay, so I went to the doctor literally the next day. Caleb called the moment their doors open, was like, "Hey, I know that we need an appointment, but I got to bring my wife in because she is unwell." I mean, he literally is like, something's wrong with her. And so I also that same day was able to get a hold of my counselor that I had been seeing for 2 years now, and was able to get into her on Tuesday. So this all happened Sunday going into Monday. Monday, I saw the doctor. That's when they diagnosed me with the postpartum depression psychosis. And then Tuesday, went and saw my counselor. And Caleb went with me to that appointment because he wanted to make sure that I was going to be very forthright with what happened, because I really had a hard time coming to terms that those are the thoughts I had. It was just really hard for me to understand how I had those thoughts. I literally told Caleb, I was like, everything is going right. This couldn't have this pregnancy, this postpartum, being a family of 4 could not have been, and honestly, any more perfect. And I was like, I don't know why I feel this way. And so he wanted me to make sure I communicated that very clearly to the doctor and my counselor. But without jumping too far ahead, I went through this whole journey. I like to call it a journey because it's definitely been one, for 3 months. The psychosis episodes, I want to say I've only had about 4 or 5. Those happened all within about a month, maybe a month and a half. Maybe not.
Yeah, that's a lot.
You say only, but I'm like, whoa.
That's a dark month right there.
I think looking back, I'm like, oh, it was only a month and a half, praise God, out of the 3 months that I went through this. But from that, those episodes caused me to experience PTSD because even though I wasn't having episodes every night, I was scared of having episodes every night. Got to the point where like 5 p.m. I had to start drugging myself to go to bed because if not, I was up all night shaking, terrified, crying. I mean, it was just, I've never been this way before. And I was just like, this is not, I don't know what's wrong with me. Like, I know this isn't me. It got to the point I could not go in our living room at night because that's where that all honestly entered me, I feel like. And so being in the living room at night, I couldn't go. Like once it got dark, I was in bed and I stayed in bed. I was a shell of myself at that point and was not y'all see me. I am I don't like to toot my own horn, but I'm a happy
she is
This is so
very
true.
bubbly. It's complete
personable.
opposite.
Yes. I am such a like personable person, and that was not that was not what I was. I don't even I look back and just don't even recognize that person. But so like I said, I went to the doctor, started counseling. I started going to counseling once a week because I was like, I don't feel okay. But I struggled daily, if not all day, every day, with suicidal ideations. That's all I could think about was I started running because my counselor was like, you need to do something that like kicks your endorphins in. And so I did. I hate running, y'all. So this was huge for me.
Right. Yeah.
And so I started running. Well, this trail that I run around has a bridge. And literally every time I would run over that bridge, I was like, I could do it. Like, I can end this right now. Like, that's all that was going through my head. In the car, I was like, oh, I could run into that building really fast. It was awful. And I was like, this is not me. Like this, y'all, it was demonic. I really, that's the only awful word I can think of was like, this is just demonic. And so counselor went once a week and then doctor, they prescribed me some medication. I started taking it. It was not doing okay. But come to find out a little down the road, they were trying to medicate my postpartum depression psychosis. But after I kind of went through, I think it was the Lord given, I stopped experiencing episodes, thankfully. Now it was the PTSD that was taking over because it was like every time I had a PTSD episode, I was like, I want to die. Let's get this over with. And so we finally were able to find me a medication that would attack the PTSD side of it. And 3 months later, I started the medication right about, I want to say a month and a half. So it took a full other month and a half for this medication to kick in. So there's that.
Man, that is a long time to be feeling that way, to have all of these thoughts entering your mind. I agree with you. It's probably some oppression. That's hard. So while you were going through that, how did your church respond or your youth? Did they even know you were going through this? Did you reach out for help? Tell us what you were doing during that time.
Earlier, you said you had switched churches right in the middle of all of this, right?
So actually we switched like after all this was over. So we were still at this other church. So when Caleb came back from camp and then this happened, there was a week and then he was supposed to leave that following, I want to say Saturday, to go to the high school camp. And I was obviously not in a space to be left alone. It sounds awful. I was not okay to be left alone with our children by myself. And I say that with all just being very vulnerable and open. Like I knew I wasn't okay. And so we had kind of talked back and forth about, okay, what are we going to do? And Caleb, which this is going to come up in a minute and it really hurts my heart. But Caleb for me was my safe place because I knew he was going to protect me. I knew that he was there for me. The first night, every time I had an episode at night, he stayed up all night with me. I mean, he would turn on music for us to listen to. He would read scripture over me. So he was my safe place. And I was like,
Amazing.
you can't leave. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not okay. And he actually told me, I wasn't the one that was like, I need you to stay. He was like, I'm staying. And I was like, you're supposed to leave from camp, like, in 2 days. Like, what is the church going to say? Like, you might be fired after this. I hope you know that. So we went in. So we actually went in. I want to say it was that Wednesday or Thursday, and he was supposed to leave Saturday. And we went in and we're like, hey, told them everything that happened. Caleb did most of the talking because I was just over there sobbing because this was 2 weeks after my first episode and I was still just honestly traumatized. But he's like, I have to stay home. He's like, I cannot leave my wife while she's going through this and go to camp and stress out the entire time on if I'm going to come home and my wife is dead. And if my girls are okay. And so they, thankfully, I think this was very Holy Spirit moment. They were like, okay, you're going to stay. We can fill your spot. Like, the camp's not going to fall apart because you're not there. And again, mind you, we were overpaid interns. Like, we're not the guy, thankfully, in that moment. And so they were like, you stay. Well, that was, again, just a gift from God because he was there. I ended up having another episode a few days after that, and he was there to be with me and, you know, make sure I was safe and all the things. And so the church responded pretty well. We didn't really share it with the students because that's just a really heavy topic for a teenager
For sure.
to comprehend. We did share with them, like, Alex is hurting right now. And I even got, I want to say I even got up and kind of shared with them. I was like, y'all, I'm going through a really hard time right now. You may not see me a lot over the summer because I kind of need to step away and focus on healing and figuring out how I can work through this. And so, the students, they knew I was hurting, but other than that, they didn't know. Now, the rest of the church. So something that my husband's even just mentioned recently, going through this, the first 3 weeks, even though I was traumatized, I had hope in my heart that the Lord was going to use this. And I want to say it was probably right at the 3-week mark. I made a Facebook post or Instagram and shared it to Facebook, just about what I was going through. I didn't go into a lot of detail, but gave enough where people could probably assume, like, oh, Alex is not well right now. And I'm like, no, I'm not. So they, all of our people knew, and I had nothing but love. I had nothing but encouragement. Thankfully, everyone took it well, and no one was like, "Oh my gosh, you're letting this bother you," because as church people, some church people can be like, "Oh, you're suffering. You're obviously not praying enough." And y'all, I was literally on my knees, on my face, daily, begging God to take this away. And unfortunately, I never heard from him. It was just the most silent season with the Lord. And so to some church people, they'd be like, yeah, you're not being faithful. And I'm like, and I'm not being faithful. Y'all, I'm a pastor's wife, not to put myself on a pedestal, but good gravy. All I do is serve the church. Like, what the heck? And so, that it was just very humbling how well everybody responded when I opened up about it. Because something I told Caleb, and I think I remember telling you, Jenna, at the retreat, I knew God was going to use this. In those first 3 weeks, I had hope, knowing, I was like, okay, God, like, I'm going to suffer. I understand that. Like, use this, like, be glorified. Like, please don't let this go to waste. And so I knew in my heart, right at the 3-week mark, for 3 weeks, that was going to happen. And then I had another episode. I had gone, I think, about a week without having an episode.
Yeah.
And then I had another episode, and it brought me a lot deeper into this pit
Yeah.
of all this. And in between this, Caleb was contacted about this church opportunity with where we're at now. And looking back, I really think I don't want to over spiritualize it, but I think that the enemy was trying to distract us from what God was about to move us into, and try to take Caleb's eyes into a haze of, I don't have time on your call for my life, Lord. Like, I got to focus on my wife.
Alex, I know I speak for all three of us when I say I'm genuinely so sorry for all that you went through. I mean, I just cannot even imagine. And it's so funny, as you were sitting there talking, I was like, man, you hear stories like this of people, feeling like they don't need to be here anymore.
Yeah.
And when you hear those stories, a lot of the time it's people that you would never in a million years think. And so that right there to me is just confirmation that it is the enemy.
Yeah.
100%. Like that voice you're hearing, it is the enemy. It is demonic.
Can I add something to that, though?
Yes, go for it.
I would say the only thing is I don't want people to hear that it's just demonic, that there was stuff happening chemically in your body.
Absolutely.
Because I don't want people to go, well, she don't need medicine because Alex said it was demonic. And like,
she's got a demon in her.
I think like, there has to be a balance.
For sure.
So people don't hear what we're not saying. Like,
oh, 100%.
She went to the doctor.
Yes.
She did counseling. And now as clear-minded going, I can see where the enemy was trying to use what I was going through for.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Just wanted
100%.
to make sure.
We are all about medicine when it's needed. So 100%.
Yes.
Make sure people know that, like Jess said. So we know that with everything that happened, there weren't any like super negative voices speaking into you from the church or anything like that. But we think as a whole that churches could do a better job of supporting and loving women who are going through postpartum depression and anxiety and all of the things. So what are some signs that we can look for? But then also like how would you say that churches could do a better job in supporting women who are going through this?
So this is obviously something that's not talked about at all at the church. I think mental health, even as a whole, it's like, oh, that's too hard. We really don't want to discuss that. So I think the church honestly does need to do a complete 180 on how they approach mental health. We're always like, oh yeah, I'll pray for you, sweetheart. Like, let me just pray for you. But for me, I needed people to help me because my life was literally falling apart, like right in front of me. Like I mentioned earlier, I was a shell of myself. I couldn't function. I mean, I just couldn't because I was trapped in this just trauma. I hate using that word, but it's what it was.
Yeah.
It was just trauma. And so something I wish I would have had was people come in and like, hey, like, let me come just sit with you. Like, let me come sit with the kids and just postpartum in general. Let me come sit with the kids so you can shower. I mean, us moms don't shower for apparently weeks. And I didn't realize that until I became a mom. And I was like, oh, I haven't showered in 2 weeks. I should probably let's do this. And it's midnight by the time I actually get to shower. So having someone just come over, I think something I probably needed was someone to go with me on my walks. Because that was a time, it was very healthy for me, but it was also a time I was alone and the enemy had me isolated. A good isolation, in my opinion, but the enemy was going to use that isolation to sneak in attacks.
Of destruction.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, and he definitely did, unfortunately. And so I wish people, instead of just vocally being there, I wish their physical body would have been there.
Amen.
I'm not one to, I love accepting gifts from my husband, but not other people. For some reason, it's just icky to me. But I wish people would have gifted us meals. I wish somebody, honestly, I'm a clean freak. I mean, I own a very small cleaning business and my house is spotless. During that time, it was not. It was and I think added more stress on me. I wish someone would have been like, hey, can I even just come do the dishes? Like, let me come vacuum your floors. Let me come take your kids. So if you need to just go sit in
whatever
silence,
you need to do.
Whatever you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that when there was a comment that was said that I think needs to hopefully the person feel convicted by, but my husband was told that I was a crutch to him right now in his ministry. That I was the reason his brain was so not focused on his ministry. And mind you, it's summertime. There's nothing going on during summer. Yes, he stayed home from a few camps. Well, a camp he really wasn't even supposed to go to. He was asked to go, and he's like, I can't. Like, Alex is still not okay. And that's kind of when that comment came into place, that I'm being used as a crutch and not
when in actuality, he was taking care of his first ministry.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Exactly. And
wow.
I think that's something I also want the church to know, is that, as a pastor, like as a whole, that's his first ministry. It's not them. I have a heart for the people in our church, but I would literally drop everything had this been Caleb and been like, I'm gone for now. Like I will even take a leave of absence if that's what I had to do.
Right.
For Caleb, had it been vice versa.
Yeah.
So
yes. I said that, people, so I don't say mean things. So
yes.
I'm sorry.
Righteous anger inside. I'm feeling it.
Well, again, I know Jenna apologized earlier. Now I'm apologizing for the mean people. And I know we have all had those moments where people have said things, but man, like to hit you while you're down and to hit the spouse that's probably so drained, mentally worried, and trying to be a daddy and focus and it's so much. Like life-giving words during a hard season is like honey to the soul. Like, what are you doing, people? Come on, let's do better. Man. Okay, so friend, happy stuff. How are you doing now? How are you doing now? And what do you see the Lord doing in your life and working through this hard situation?
I am honestly could not be doing better. It was so right after 3 months of going through this, I one day woke up and was like, I'm okay. Like, I don't want to die today. That sounds dramatic and like ridiculous, but I did. I woke up and was like I actually want to be here today. And looking back, it's a complete 180 of what was going on to now. I kind of want to share something real quick. I know this might add a little bit, but I really feel like this can give someone what it was like in my brain, and then what it's like now, being able to see that. I won't read the entire thing because I just don't think it's necessary. But one night I had a moment with the Lord, and honestly telling God off. I mean, just to be transparent, I was like, you're not who you say you are, because this is 3 months of this and I am desperate. And I have like literally laid this down at your feet and you're not here. Like, where are you? Like, what kind of God is that? A God that, in the Bible, that is so unconditionally loving and compassionate. Like, where's that same compassion? Like, I need that. So I kind of want to read a little bit of one of these journal entries that I did, which was something I was encouraged to do because I needed to get everything out of here onto paper. So here is a little bit of a journal entry I had. I am tired of fighting this battle. I am weary. I don't know how much longer I can keep fighting. These feelings and thoughts are becoming more and more unbearable to handle. I have prayed and begged for deliverance and strength and have not seen or felt an answer. I have seen the Lord answer prayers in my life for other things, but where is this answer? An answer I need, an answer to such a life or death request. There is nothing in my life right now that seems to be an issue to cause such despair, to cause me to not want to be alive anymore. I felt heroic being able to have such a good outlook on this the first time. I felt I knew God was going to use this. I knew his way was better. and that this would make me stronger and bring me closer to him. But what now? Where are you, God? Where are you in this? Why are you so quiet? Why is your spirit so slow to bring strength, much less peace in this storm? In my weakness, your strength and grace is supposed to be sufficient enough for me. Where is it? You fight my battles for me, but I feel like I have been thrown into the middle of a war field with no armor, nothing to defend myself as I am being violently attacked from all sides. Nothing feels protected. I feel every arrow that is thrusted at me hits deeper and deeper. I feel as if you are watching like you did Job while you allowed the enemy to attack him, to show how he was a faithful man of God. I don't know where he found that trust and how he was able to do so. I feel like Peter, who has stepped out onto the water but is now sinking. Where is your hand that saved him? I feel like I'm in the depths of the stormy waves and drowning, reaching for something to grasp, and nothing is there. I feel like I'm losing hope. I feel like I'm losing faith. Lord, please don't give up on me. Please don't let this be where my story ends. Save me from this. Save me from myself. I need to see the victory that is coming. I need to see that this fighting is worth it, even just the light at the end of the tunnel. Lord, please deliver me from this madness, this storm. But even if not, may your will be done and you be glorified. Sorry, there's a reason I wanted to read that. So something that the Lord spoke to me one night was like, after telling him off, I was like, God, I'm just done. Like, I can't do this. This misery is not worth it. I can't keep going. Caleb is better off without me. My girls need a mom that is strong enough to push through this, and here I am, just done. And the Lord whispered to my heart that night, actually. I wrote it down, and I love it because it is a little bit of a slap in the face. He said, do you not believe that I am enough? And I had to sit with that for a few days because I was like, what do you mean? Do I not believe you're enough? Like, you're the God of the universe. Obviously, you're enough. And then it hit me. I had to come to terms, and I hope this kind of encourages other people, but I had to come to terms knowing that if I was never going to be healed from this, I had to be okay with only having Jesus, if that's the only thing I had to be thankful for. Because God was with me through every step of the way. And being able to look back during that whole 3 months, I can't really see physical things that happened that I was like, oh, I see God in that. I see God in that. Because again, this was a very isolating experience where I had family, I had select few friends, but obviously our church was not as involved as I wish they had been. But I had to be okay with knowing that if I had to wake up every day having the same thought, Jesus is enough and will always be enough. And thankfully, I can look back and be like, okay, I'm so glad I'm healed. But that, where I was kind of going to, that's something where I feel like the Lord's really grown me, is understanding no matter what trial, no matter what suffering, no matter anything, like Jesus is always going to be enough. And if you have to suffer for the rest of your life, so be it. Because looking back, I get to see already the fruit that the Lord's brought through all of this. I mean, it's been amazing. I've been able to share with people. I've gotten to have really hard conversations with people about just what this is and have the opportunity to share with the church, like, us postpartum moms, like, yes, we're tired, but we're not crazy. Like, there's literally an issue with this that's not being talked about, and there needs to be more care given to moms. And honestly, just pastors' wives and mental health in general, all of it, because we're looked at like, oh, you've got it all together. And I'm like, did you not just read my last Facebook post? Like, I do not have it all together.
Amen.
Man.
Yeah.
Alex, I appreciate you sharing all of these things. And I do agree. We need to do a better job just in general. And I think it's a lot of us have a hard time sitting with people that are in those kind of headspaces, I think it
Yeah.
makes people uncomfortable. It
Mhm.
makes them go, I don't get this. So if you
Mhm.
haven't been there, it is hard to sit with people.
Yeah.
But I think now you're going to be one of those people God uses
That's right.
for these other women to sit with
Yes.
them and mourn with them
Mhm.
and say, I actually understand. And
Yeah.
let me hug you.
Yeah.
And all those things that you wish you had, you can
Mhm.
give.
Yeah.
So I love it. I love it. I love it. Alex,
I
you are amazing.
just told Caleb, I think we were talking about it the other day, kind of getting ready for this. And probably right after that 3 months, I wish I could have told you I was so happy I walked through this because I got a story to tell, but
Mhm.
that wasn't the case. It's been a lot of me wrestling with the Lord of like, okay, God, like show me why I'm walking through this. And now he's showing me why. And I can confidently say I am so thankful I walked through such an awful storm to be able to just show people like there is a light. Even if
Yeah.
you may never get to the point I'm at, Jesus is enough.
Yeah.
And the Lord cares for you and he
Yeah.
is going to be with you
Mhm.
even if you don't get healed.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the Lord has really worked on my heart over these last just month, 2 months, being better that I'm thankful. I am so humbled that I got to walk through such a time as that to now be on the other side, to be able to share hope. Honestly, show the goodness and faithfulness of the Lord. Because something I want to share that I hope the mom or even just the person struggling with mental health can hear. I wrestled with the Lord on his faithfulness, his goodness. Obviously told you there's a time I was like, God, if there is a God like that literally healed people, raised Jesus from the dead, then where is that same power? Because if I'm not receiving that same power, then there can't be a God. Like I had a moment where I was like, okay, I don't know if I believe in this God anymore.
Mhm.
And I share that with all honesty. I know some people are going to listen to that and be like, oh my gosh, how dare she say that? But I was able
Mhm.
to wrestle with the Lord on my faith in him. And what is so amazing, not once did I feel shame for that. Not once did his spirit convict me of how dare you not trust in me.
Right.
It was,
Mhm.
okay, you know what? Search my word. Search it. I want to prove to you I am who I say I am. And I can confidently say, being able to wrestle with the Lord and question and doubt him has actually brought me closer into a more intimate relationship than I ever thought I could have with the Lord. And so I just want someone that may need to hear that. Like, it's okay to question the Lord. It's okay to doubt because he is faithful and just to show up and prove who he is. And honestly, just to love you through it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Preach, girl.
So good.
Preach.
Yes. Thank
So
you,
good.
Alex, for sharing all of
yes.
this. You have been amazing. And it is time now for our final 3 questions.
Yes.
And I want these to be rapid fire.
Okay, rapid fire.
You got this.
First thing that comes to mind. Are you
Okay.
ready?
Yes.
If you could go back and give your pre-pastor's wife self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Protect your husband.
Ooh, I like it. Protect your husband.
Protect his heart. Don't gossip with him. Let him steam off from a thing. Then go and talk about this thing because you feeding into his venting can build bitterness. And I'm seeing the reaping of that.
Yeah,
Like
that is
that.
Yes.
That's so good.
Yes.
Okay. This is a fun question.
Okay.
What do you do for fun, either by yourself or with Caleb, to get your mind off of ministry things?
So Caleb will tell you I don't do anything fun because I don't do the things he wants to do. But I actually,
But you clean. And you
I
clean
do,
so well.
and I love it, y'all.
I feel you
And she likes
so
to organize
deeply right now.
You like
Yeah.
to organize.
I like to clean. My husband does not like to do that. So I feel
Those-
like they would get along.
Those
Anyway.
are things I do. But something I actually started doing, my counselor encouraged. I won't get super into it, but I started baking. I needed to do something that was going to bring me happiness and also those around me. And so started baking bread,
Sourdough.
cookies. Yeah. Oh, girl.
Yep,
girl.
I remember you
My
talking about that.
sourdough era. But my new hobby right now, which I actually had someone message me wanting to buy, is making butter.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
You did tell us
Yeah.
about that
You
butter
talked
at
about that.
breakfast.
Yes,
Yeah.
I had someone that was like, "Hey, can I buy some butter from you?" And I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna start a bread and butter business. Let's
Hey,
go."
next retreat that you come on, you need to bring the butter
And the sourdough.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes,
Y'all heard it. Y'all heard
I
it.
will bring it all.
Okay,
Yes.
good. Y'all heard her say it.
All
so.
of it.
Okay, last question. If you could tell the church congregation one thing without reservation and have them listen and respond, what would you say? And this is for the congregation as a whole, not just your congregation, but as a whole, as a Big C church.
To tie it back with my story, be there for your pastors and your pastor's wife. They go through daily battles and they need just as much love and shepherding as they're giving, because we can be so poured out so often that we're not encouraged, or it's oh yeah, we're praying for you, we're there for you. But it's like, okay, but show up, like physically show up for your pastor and your pastor's wife. I'm not one that's like, oh, doing all the hard work, like pour the praise over me, but like be there for them, because they're always there for you, even when they don't want to, just to be transparent. So yes.
Love it.
Thank you, friends, so much for sharing. And we just pray this goes out to the ears that need to hear this right now. And just for the church in general, this is for everyone. So it's beautiful. Sure. Thank you for sharing your testimony with us. And we love you so, so much. Okay.
I love you guys.
Until next time.
Until next time, guys. Bye. Bye. Okay, friends, if you have enjoyed this episode as much as we have, please help us spread the word on Facebook and Instagram.
If you didn't know yet, Instagram is where all the fun is at. From dance reels on Wednesdays to spiritual encouragement and laugh out loud posts in between, there is something for everyone.
And last but certainly not least, if you could take a moment right now to stop what you're doing and give us a rating and review, even subscribe to our podcast, this seriously helps other people find us who wouldn't be able to otherwise. Thank you so much for your love and support. We hope you'll tune in next week.